Welcome everybody to the Town of Hamilton Zoning Board of Appeals meeting, December 3rd, 2025. We have two projects in front of us to review and then some meeting minutes afterwards. With us is Andy Phillips on the Zoom and Stephen DeRozier on the Zoom, myself, Bruce Gingrich here, and as chair, and Mark Connors from the town planning group. So, two projects. The first one we'll listen to will be for Edward Cantilli, Jr. Property is located at 144 Gregory Island Road, Assessors Map 60, Lot 52, Zoning District R1A. The application requests approval for a finding for the extension or alteration of a nonconforming use, structure, or lot, to construct a 1.5-story vertical addition to the existing 1-story dwelling and a 2-story mudroom addition. And then the second project is, the applicant is, and owner is Kevin Puopolo, 85 Sam Fonzo Drive, Beverly, Mass. Property is located at 957 Bay Road, Assessors Map 24, Lot 12, Zoning District R1B. The application requests approval for a finding for the extension or altercation of a nonconforming use, structure, or lot, to construct an office building with storage and a garage, an office building with 4 offices and on the first floor and 3 one-bedroom apartments on the second floor, an office building with 2 stories of offices, and an accessory storage building. So we'll just go in order and start with the 144 Gregory Island Road project.
Right.
And is that you?
That's me. Good evening. So my name is Bob Griffin. I'm with Griffin Engineering in Beverly, Mass. In the audience tonight is Mr. Contilli and his son, Anthony. Mr. Contilli actually grew up in this parcel of land a long time ago, and, well, maybe not so long, but has moved back and wants to improve the building for his family. This portion of Gregory Island Road is known for very small lots. It's a 7,600 square foot parcel. It's only about 50 feet wide, about 150 feet deep. It does abut it abuts the water, and at the bottom you can see there's a small retaining wall if we just scroll up a little bit further. But what you're looking at there is the Gregory Island portion, the Chabaco Lake portion. It's at the bottom of the page. And as we're looking at the bottom portion of the plot plan there's an existing shed that remains as part of the work. There's a deck on the back of the house, and you can see his septic system is there. The deck remains. The building footprint remains. In fact, we're going to save the bottom part of the house and just put a 1.5-story vertical addition on the house. There's a little bit of maneuvering of a mudroom on the right side as you're looking at the plot plan, but it's basically working within that existing footprint. That footprint's around 1,400 square feet in size. So you can see it's a non-conforming lot. It doesn't have enough frontage for the R1A district, and it's also a non-conforming building. It doesn't have the adequate front yard, doesn't have adequate side yards. It does have adequate rear yards. And obviously the lot area is a little short for the R1A district as well. Mr. Contilli also owns some vacant parcels of land across the street. They're not. There's a garage on one of them, but it does provide some additional space so that he can do construction staging on those adjacent parcels and not interfere with the neighbors. And there's plenty of room to work here, despite the small size of this particular lot. The architectural plans were prepared by Timothy Sheen Architects, and what you're looking at there is a picture of the front of the house from the street at the top of the page, and then below that is a rendering of the expanded building looking at the rear of the building from the water. And if we scroll up just a little bit more, please, no, the opposite, there we go. We can see on that rendering the the existing ground floor. We've moved past that, but you can see that the the addition amounts to one floor of full size of the 1,400 square foot footprint, and then as it comes up towards the roof line, the top floor is really a half story where the roof line comes in and encroaches on those upper rooms. The building height is still going to meet the requirements. The building height is, I think, around 28 feet as measured by the Hamilton zoning definitions. So no worries there.
Michael Bublé is an all-time holiday fix. And later on, performances by Alex Bailey and Mark Anthony.
In Rockefeller Center, return.
Okay. So what we're looking at on this sheet is are the expansion floors. So the attic floor plan is to be the top, and you can see how the narrow shape of the building at the top floor, and that's caused by the roof lines as it comes up towards the peak of the house. And then the floor below that is the first full addition on the existing building, and there's 3 bedrooms to be constructed along with some bathroom space on that floor. And then below that is the kitchen and the living room, and there's some basement space, which is, I think, has a living room and some utility space in the bottom floor. We can keep scrolling down. That's fine. You can see there's the. That looks like that's the existing. So I think we've gone past the proposed work. No, I'm sorry. That's the expanded front. The horizontal clapboards would be the existing portion of the building, and then the shingle sort of style would be the new addition on the second floor and the attic floor. And you can see there's a little dormer up there where the 15 is indicated. So it's certainly a nice colonial style. It's going to fit well with the similar houses in the neighborhood. The house immediately to the right of the property at 146 was built in around, I think, 2021 and has a similar style, similar height. The addition on this house will not block anybody's view or anything like that of the water. Certainly a nice architectural design. Mr. Contilli was able to get a letter from his neighbor at 146. This is Mr. Hibbard and Ms. Cutts. Of course, speaks in favor of his proposed project. Mr. Contilli also explained that he did speak to his neighbor on the opposite side at 142, and that neighbor has no objections to the project. We don't have a written correspondence from the neighbor, but he has reached out to his neighbors, as you might expect. So with that, I'd be happy to address any questions.
Okay, the only area that I had a little question on was the mudroom building up of that kind of entrance area.
Yeah.
You're not enclosing any more space or
No, in fact,
taking more space
yeah.
that it hasn't been built on before.
So the mudroom actually shifts a little bit closer to the water than the existing mudroom, but there is a mudroom there, and actually the area occupied by the mudroom slightly decreases as compared to the existing conditions. But there is, there is an entrance into the building in that area, but we are shifting the mudroom a little closer away from the street and towards the water.
Okay. Because this is existing, I think, right?
The other interesting thing about the mudroom is, as a result of this slight shift, we actually bring that side setback from 4.8 feet to 5 feet. So there's a slight improvement in the setback on that side.
Okay. Any questions from you guys? Andy, Stephen?
One thing from the Board of Health, it seemed that a deed restriction for the bedrooms was required. Is that something that the owner is aware of and would be okay with?
Yes, we were made aware of that request from the Board of Health this afternoon, and Mr. Contilli is happy to file the 3-bedroom deed restriction.
You said the front deck area is not going to change at all. That's going to remain as is. No.
The front line of the building remains the same. There's the stairs from the street up to the first floor remains the same. The covered porch between the mudroom and those stairs gets a little bit longer in this with the renovations than the current condition.
Yep. Okay.
I think my one question, considering adding a story and not really a story and a half, but a story and a significant attic space, was just floor to area ratio. But after looking at the plans, the yard does go back a little further than I thought previously. So I don't think that's much of a concern.
Right, and we do conform to the building coverage requirement as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're not increasing
Yeah.
coverage, right?
Right.
I have no other questions, Bruce.
Sure. Go ahead.
Oh, I have no other
Oh,
questions.
you have no other question. Okay. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak? For or against? Anybody in Zoom? No? I'll read this letter just so everybody has it, because we just got it handed to us. It's from Bruce Hibbard. We are the neighbors adjacent to the Cantillas and want to express our support for the approved renovations to the home. We have discussed the plans with them and feel that it will improve their home and be in keeping with the neighborhood. We are not able to attend this evening's meeting, so want to express our support to the board and hope that you proceed with approval of the permit for the renovations. Thank you for your consideration. So that will be filed. We'll get that into the town and put on the website as part of the packet. I don't have any more questions. This is kind of a standard thing that happens around the lake there, is building up. Most of the lots around there face the same issues of just very tight. As long as we get, my biggest concern is septic, as long as that's under control and in good shape. I don't see any problems with it. If you guys have no further questions, you can entertain a motion to vote.
Yep, no further questions. I motion to approve the project at 144 Gregory Road as presented.
I second that.
Gregory Island Road, excuse me.
Yes. Okay. Take a roll call vote on this.
Stephen DeRocher, aye.
Andy Phillip, aye.
And Bruce Gingrich, aye. So I have 14 days to write up the decision, get it into the town, and then it's 21 days after
appeal.
that if anybody wants to oppose it. And then you're free to, once you get that note from the town, they'll call you.
Great.
Free to go.
All right, well, thank you all very much.
All right, good luck with it.
Thanks.
Okay. Project. Let me clean my desk here. Get this out. That. Okay, the next project is for it's number 957 Bay Road, for extension or alteration of a nonconforming use, structure, or lot.
So,
Presenting, so please state your name and
to the chair, members of the board. My name is Jill Mann. My offices for Mann & Mann are located in Middleton. I'm here this evening representing CMB Construction. Here with me is Kevin Popolo and his wife Peg Popolo, who actually are historic residents of the town and have their families still residents in town. We're here seeking relief under Section 5.2 for an existing nonconforming use to be changed or altered to a different nonconforming use. The section under the bylaw is 5.2. The lot itself, as well as the structure on the lot, is fully compliant with zoning, so there is no nonconforming lot or structure, so 5.3 does not apply, but 5.2 does apply. So I think many people understand what this property is. It's currently used and has been used since sometime during the 1940s as a motor vehicle service repair either a gas station or repair. There's actually been some manufacturing of parts for motorcycles, but in general, it's a motor vehicle repair facility. The proposal is to alter that from an industrial use to a commercial use, a professional office park. We respectfully request and suggest to the board that that change of use is actually less detrimental than the existing use of the property. If you want to go all the way to the top, then we can just look at the first plan and we can just kind of, I'm sorry. So it's Exhibit A, which is the site plan. So it's actually, I think, page 8 or 9.
Okay.
Ooh. Oh, you can go there too. Yeah, either way.
So it's the,
Full applica-
which one do you want to bring up, the full application of plans or the?
Sure, that's fine too.
Yeah, that'll have it in
That's
there.
fine.
just
So
gotta
there you
scroll
see,
down.
it's on page 4, the site plan. So just as a brief overview, because I always think it's good to get everybody's bearings. This particular property is a 63,000 square foot property. It has about 107, it has about 375 feet of frontage. In the R1B zoning district, the requirements are 40,000 and 175 feet of frontage. So the lot obviously is fully compliant. This particular part of town, I'll see, jumping back and forth then. So this particular part of town is located in a district that is has many different types of lots. There's an estate lot behind the property that is probably 10 acres of land. There are properties across the street that are a little bit under 2 acres that are also a large estate home with a primary structure, a secondary structure, and many other structures. There are a couple of 3 unit condominiums in this particular neighborhood. There are many non-conforming lots, small-sized, and many non-conforming structures that just, because they predate zoning, have been built in a manner that doesn't comply with your current zoning. So what our proposal is to actually take out this building that is actually an eyesore. I don't know if you know what, maybe, honestly, Mark, maybe it'd be better if you go to my submittal.
Okay.
Because I have pictures and overview of what the building looks like now. I realize most people know what it looks like, but it'll be a little easier just to refer to that exactly.
Okay.
So if you keep going down, I have pictures of the actual property from I have them, that's just the zoning bylaw, these are just the use codes. And then I have copies of the pictures. It's Exhibit J. There we go.
Okay.
So this was just a copy of a picture. Believe it or not, that's from 2008. So I just wanted to be able to give the board and anybody in the audience also the opportunity to look at what the building looks like. This is the current configuration. This is the current look. It has all of those additions still, and historically had been parked with many vehicles in front, which a lot of the abutters who issued some concerns for this board noted that there are people who, there'd be outdoor storage, there'd be parking everywhere, there'd be cars that were essentially not usable, in disrepair, littered throughout the property. So this is from 2008. Then the next picture you'll see is just from 2018 to give the board an idea of how large actually the frontage is and the fact that there currently exist on the property 3 used bays for servicing and then a service area where people can go in and basically go into the service area and wait for their cars. And then in 2000, I just gave you the most recent version also of 2019. That's the most clear picture, just to give you an idea of what the property looks like. There you go. So the proposal is absolutely to raise this particular structure and to add 4 buildings. Once we get through a point, I'm going to have Brian Stein, who's the architect of record, go through some of the site plan components and then some of the building components just to show you the different architectural design features of the property, which we have designed to definitely blend with this particular neighborhood. The design of the buildings, as you'll see, are very akin to what's traditionally built in Hamilton. They're barn-like, they look like barns, they look like a general store. So you don't have anything like this, which is a very industrial face with absolutely no character whatsoever. And if you go to the actual site plan that was presented, which would be yes, keep going down. Okay, there you go.
Just missed it.
That's the best one to use, the one that Brian had done, because I think it just adds more texture. So you can see that there are 4 buildings. They're all in compliance. So the requirements in this particular district are that you have, again, 175 feet of frontage. We have over 375. But those setback requirements are 15 feet from the side and rear property lines, and then from the front, it's either 25 or 50. So in each building, the frontage is over 50 feet. And meets all of the setbacks, which you can see from just how Brian had designed it in, and to show you where the building envelopes are going to be. One of the distinct changes that is being made by Mr. Popolo is to bring everything to the rear. The way you enter the buildings is in the rear, so all activity will be in the back. Parking is in the back. Everything is located to the back. The outdoor storage component that was prevalent with the prior use is no longer going to be there. The front-facing overhead doors are not there. We won't have that heavy traffic that you have with a quick service business. I'll give you an example. So some of the concerns that the abutters raised, and we understand them. You know, anytime there's going to be a change, people get concerned and want to know exactly what's going to happen and how is it going to affect me. And immediately when you see there's additional buildings and you see parking, it triggers your mind and you think that it's going to be more burdensome. But in fact, when you look at the traffic report that we did submit with this particular application, and I do have copies of it if anybody who's in a butter wanted to see them, there's actually a reduction of to half the number of trips. So when you have a particular use in a property, some of the issues that come up are, okay, so how many cars actually had been historically attending the site in the last year? That really doesn't matter. It's about what the use can generate. So what you look at is you look at the traffic impact of the current use, and that literally generates 176 trips a day to this property. When we convert to buildings like this with professional office use, you don't have the in and out traffic. You literally have people coming to work, staying. Every once in a while, people leave. You might have somebody coming to the office, but that isn't even a heavy impact. And even with the residents, you're going to have maybe 70, 80 trips a day to the property versus, as I said, that almost 180 number when you have the existing uses. Because the existing uses aren't only the motor vehicle repair on the first floor, but also it has a 3-bedroom residential unit on the second floor. So you do have a mixed-use property currently, and what we're proposing for that center building is also 3 individual 1-bedroom units, which actually generate less trips than a 1 3-bedroom unit. So traffic impacts are actually reduced by this particular change. So some of the other components that the abutters were concerned about, and again, I do have that additional information, were the environmental concerns. So whenever there's a gas station, whenever there's a service station, we all have the same concern. Was there ever a spill? Was it cleaned up? What about the tanks that housed any kind of gasoline? I actually have copies, and I'm going to give them to the board, and I do have copies for other people as well. And what these say is basically that everything had been cleaned up. So I'm going to just hand that. And as well, there are copies of the plan that actually shows not only I have a copy for you too. Not only was the property cleaned up when there was a spill in 2004, but also that the gas tank was properly removed and the proper, I wouldn't call it a bill of lading for this, but a removal component was, it's right on top. So here's the information for the fire department, and then in the back it's the DEP plan and the DEP report stating that the property was properly cleaned. And what I did was just give you copies showing that. I gave 3 because I didn't know whether or not the board members were going to be present. And then, like I said, I do have copies for anybody who would like to see it from the abutters.
Did this go to the town too, to the building department?
I just pulled these because I got the abutters concern relative to it, so I wanted to make sure, so I gave extra copies as well to Mark.
Okay, I'll get that on.
And it does, you actually do get copies, so when you have the DEP file, so I think it should have gone to conservation as well, so it should be in your historic file, but who knows if it is. The fire department, though, when they removed that tank, that gas tank, that is in your files, and we just had that from the fire department showing you that it was properly removed, and there was no incident at the time, and I think that was done in like the 1989. So those were the concerns of the abutter. Now, are we overusing the property? Now, the buildings themselves, the density component, we meet. So you're allowed to occupy up to 25% of the property in this particular district. This plan here occupies 19%. And when you look at the aerial, would you do me a favor, go to the very last slide in my presentation?
Sure.
Brian was kind enough to superimpose our site onto the aerial that was taken in 2003, so you can actually see this particular area. I mean, how do you say anything in this part of town is densely occupied? I mean, you know, it's Hamilton. It's really, there are very few areas that are densely occupied, but as you can see, the occupation and the relative comparison between number of buildings and the size of the lot is pretty comparable in this particular area. I mean, I can go through it. Like, we know the owner to the north of the site, which I believe is 965, they've actually issued a letter in support. I think the board actually has a copy of that. We did get a letter in support from 18 Gardner as well. And then we did get a letter of opposition relative to the bottom was 935. And then across the street, I think it's 959. I might be wrong. It might be 954 because it's on the opposite side of the street. But you have those in your file. And the complaints, again, were, is there too much density? And our position here is, no, there really isn't. So when you look at the detrimental impact, you look at the current condition, you look at what the general area is, and then you assess whether or not this change would be impactful and detrimental. We suggest that it is not detrimental, and I'm going to go through what I believe to be the components for assessing that. So firstly, it's a less intense use. We have an industrial use currently, and it is going to a business use, a professional business use. It's more restrictive. So a professional office building has much more restrictions than does an industrial use. You know, you have limited parking, you have limited area. There is a storage building on site, which was noted by one of the abutters, but it is accessory to the other building that's at the north, which actually is going to be occupied by Mr. Popolo. He lived, as I said, he lived in town for his entire family life. And only now that he's retired, he and his wife Peg have moved, but their children continue to live in Hamilton. And he's been a prolific supporter in Hamilton, and he continues to do that and would love to be able to convert this property into something beautiful. And he would love to bring his offices here. He thinks that would be a great kind of, full circle for him. And then he does use the storage building to store fine items. It's not like he's storing, bobcats and things that are heavy that require big traffic. He's storing things like precision levels and other precision equipment that he wants to have in a secure location near his professional office building. The center building, and again, Mr. Stein is going to go through that. The center building looks just like a general store, but I'm not going to steal your thunder. I'm going to let you do it, Brian. He designed them. He should be able to do it. So essentially, we're converting this ugly building into what we all feel is more aesthetically pleasing. It's that general store look, that barn look, and that's what Hamilton's all about. I mean, you have multiple properties, you have multiple buildings on properties, and that's really what this will look like. Why else it's better for the community and why it's absolutely not, it's not substantially more detrimental is because we're taking all of the commercial activity, all of it, and putting it back. So you don't have people who are looking out in their driveways on a Saturday afternoon having a barbecue with the doors open in an industrial use where cars are coming in and out to get, oil changes, transmission changes, and tire changes. That's not going to happen. That isn't the type of use. And by the way, once we stop that use and we give it up, we can't go back. So you would be guaranteeing that this particular site would remain professional and not have that intensity of use. One of the other beneficial components to this particular request is that it will enhance property values by increasing assessed values. These 4 buildings will actually require additional assessed value, which means increased assessment, which means increased revenue to the town, and which also means the general population in the area around will have their property values also increase slightly because you no longer have an eyesore next to you with that type of heavy use. And we eliminate the possibility of there being contamination, in fact. So this is far better for the environment, which again is something that bodes well for it being more beneficial. It will have a stormwater management system. There isn't one now. And as we all know, that's actually becoming more and more problematic. As the weather changes and as we get more density and people build, we need to provide for stormwater. This site will be designed appropriately. With regard to landscaping, instead of having a building that just literally is unkept and has wild, I don't even know what it is, growth, things popping through the pavement even, this is going to be well manicured, it will be landscaped, and when Brian gives you an overview of the site, you'll see that we literally landscaped all the back to provide buffer to those people. One of the other comments and concerns, and valid concern, by an abutter was, look, can we screen the entire front? I don't think you want to. It's actually with these buildings, again, what Brian's going to show you is they look nice. So aesthetically, you're going to have an improvement. So again, I would strongly suggest that this is actually a substantial benefit to the town and that the change from this heavy industrial use to this professional use is not substantially more detrimental. With that, if I may, unless you have questions for this part, I'd like for Brian to come up and go through the architectural and site plan components. Is that fine?
Yeah, let's keep going with that, and then we'll
And if you have questions, I can pop
go to
back
questions.
up.
Yeah, go.
Thank you, Jill. Brian Stein from Vance Stein Architects in Beverly. If you could maybe put the video on, that's probably the best overview for the project that we have. We did a quick kind of schematic 3D walkthrough, if you will, of the property, showing each building, and I can kind of run through just generally what each building is, maybe a little bit more than what Jill did. But if you can hit play, we're coming from the north here and then turning into the property. You see the middle building there, which will be, again, the 3 apartments above, and then 4 reasonably small offices on the first floor. Again, they have this kind of simple general store, classic New England look, clapboards. That building on the left is, again, Mr. Popolo's office with some personal, garage space behind that you really don't see from the street. Also provides some parking in front and so forth. So again, this is inside the development. The rear of the building there, which will have the entrance, kind of one entrance for the 4 small offices, and then you don't really see it, there's a door that will go up to the apartments on the second floor. In the distance there is a kind of just a barn, we're just calling it the barn. It's another office space for, most likely one company to occupy. There's basically 1 level and then a half level on the second floor is planned right now. And then the building you'll see in a second here as it spins around is again, just a storage building as Ms. Mann noted. It looks like a garage for the most part, fairly simple building. But you don't see the doors from the street. You just see the gable end. Just nice, classic, simple forms that front the street. And again, this building isn't even really seen from the street, hardly. And then this will just go to a quick kind of aerial overview. Like you said, we'll have a fence around the property. There's one there now on the rear. We'll have a fair amount of vegetation to screen the buildings from the abutting properties. But, to us, this is an improvement over what's there. I live in Hamilton. I've lived here for 16 years. I've driven by this property hundreds of times. And it is an eyesore, as we all know. And, Mr. Popolo really just wants to improve this. I see it as a gateway into town from Ipswich, and you're leaving town as another gateway towards Ipswich, and it should have this presence to it, I think. And again, these are scaled like, especially the building on the left, is scaled like a small house that could easily have been on this property, for 150 years. So we feel that this is very much in keeping with the area, and what I see as Hamilton, having lived here for quite a while. And as a lot of people know that have lived here for a long time, Hamilton had these small little commercial pockets throughout town that were slowly losing, the junction being one of them that we lost a number of years ago to the condominiums that are there. This area up here that had a little bit of commercial, Meadowbrook Farm, had that little commercial use there, and obviously downtown, and then I'm probably missing others, but I just think that the history of these small little commercial pieces is really interesting, and it is kind of be kind of upsetting to lose that again here. So I think Mr. Popolo had a great idea in this, and just having this small little almost village that is very in keeping architecturally and style wise with the town and with this area. So I'd be happy to answer any questions on the specific buildings or any other piece regarding the architecture if you have them.
You're planning on do some plantings along the main road?
I mean,
you didn't have them in some anyway.
I mean, some. I mean, obviously, like base plantings at a minimum, and we haven't fully gotten into how much we're planting. And obviously, as you know, if we get through zoning here, we have to go to full site plan review with the planning board, which will include, obviously, as man noted, drainage, stormwater, landscape is part of that. Obviously, parking, lighting, architectural designs, everything is looked at site plan review. And I think that's when, having done this, not too long ago for, Willow Street, and some others, that's when a lot of the neighbor concerns with screening or what have you really come up. It's not so much here as right? So that's when a lot of that is addressed, and this will be developed much further for that. Especially the site plan, especially the drainage and the landscape. We'll have to provide full photometrics for lightings. I know that's whenever you have a commercial development, neighbors are always concerned about lighting and spillover, and we completely understand that. So that will be fully addressed at site plan review.
I guess it's a nice project. It looks great, just nicely designed, and it definitely would help that end of the town as far as, cleaning that up. But it is a R1B zoning area, and yes, there was an old building there, but being in front of the zoning board for to create something that's not detrimental to what's already there, or not more detrimental to the existing use and structure and all that. I mean, this is an awful lot of change. It's not just make it a little bit bigger, clean it up, do something different. And maybe it's a question for you, Mark. I'm not too sure why this project would be in front of the ZBA, because it's so extremely different than what is there now. Why wouldn't it just go to the planning board for kind of approval?
It will.
Because it's a totally different use. It's not just, I mean, you're changing it from a small garage space, which isn't, I question the amount of traffic that this would produce if it were in full operation as it is now, compared to what all of this is going to produce. It's going to be more. I don't think it's going to be really that detrimental to the neighborhood or anything. I think it'd just be kind of it would be more, but not greatly. I mean, I kind of come back to the bank just down the street at the end of Bridge Street, Institute for Savings. There was a lot of concern about traffic and all that, and I drive that street every day because I live down that way, and I never see a car coming out of there or in there. So it's not, but that's just one bank. This is apartment buildings, I don't know how many office spaces, storage for equipment that will not stay in there all the time. People are going to go in and out grabbing that stuff to take it out to use it, bring it back. a lot of moving parts in there, and I just feel like this isn't just a simple recreation and use of this lot. I mean, it's a good spot for it. It's on 1A. It's kind of nice, you know,
So I can,
feels good. But
I can address her.
Yeah, do you want me to talk about process or anything?
yeah, I think it'd be good to educate all of us, because I don't think we've never run into something this extreme.
So
Change.
If this were like a conforming lot, so if this were like a single-family house and they're proposing this, and it met the setbacks and all the other zoning requirements, they would need a variance. It'd be harder to get a variance, obviously. Because it's non-conforming, the state law says that you can expand or extend a non-conforming use through a finding of the zoning board. So this is the correct process that they're following.
Okay.
And Mark, does it make a difference going from commercial, because no one lived in this prior, to having this be both commercial and residential?
So there actually is an existing 3-bedroom residence on, yeah. But
Great, thank you.
yeah, this is, honestly, I couldn't agree with you more that this is kind of it's a hybrid. It's different, right? For a board, you've got to get your arms around the process, and then you have to kind of get comfortable with the various uses. So I do have, and I want to share this, the traffic report, which actually is in your package to see, because I can't share it. I think it's, the traffic is, I don't remember what page it is on. In my submittal. But the traffic, we actually, before we even started the process, we got an opinion from the traffic engineers that the proposed uses in combination would result in less. The reason is, I'll give you an example. When you go to a quick service motor vehicle repair facility, you have 4 bays, and you have people coming in and out, sometimes every hour. So if you have 8 hours, you can have 24 trips times 2, which is 58, because just for those. And that's only contemplating every hour. There are other instances in which you have much more frequent use. So it is a very burdensome traffic use is what a motor vehicle repair is. So some people are looking at what the existing building did. You really can't look at that. You have to look at the use. So what the law says is this particular property was used as motor vehicle service and repair in a fully compliant building on a fully compliant lot. And what that means is the expansion of the building, you can't opine as to, it doesn't matter. It's just that the use continues. Because as long as the building complies with current zoning, you can do it on that property without regard, without permits. So that's why it is.
Permits, but
pardon me, I'm sorry.
Still need permits.
Oh my God, building permits. I apologize. You are under. Yes, you definitely need a building permit. And by the way, you'd still need site plan approval. You can't get around site plan approval, right? But site plan approval is only conditionable. It is not deniable. So this change of use, right? That requires your approval, because under your excerpts, right, under 5.2 and under Section 6 of the Zoning Enabling Act, 40A, if a use is changed, literally changed in character, which means I'm going from industrial to commercial, I'm going from a motor vehicle repair to office space, that demonstrates a change. If all I'm doing is increasing my building and having my use stay the same character, it's still motor vehicle repair, same use, same effect on the neighborhood because it's the same ability to generate traffic, that does not require any type of relief. But this one does. And that's why I think maybe you're more used to seeing changes like you just had, non-conforming structures and structures in lots, right? Because it's pretty odd, even I think so in my practice, it's odd that you see a fully compliant lot, fully compliant structure, and a non-conforming use. Usually they go hand in hand, but not in this case. So what our requirement is to show you, we have the, what is the existing use, motor vehicle repair, what is the burden, 176 trips a day, what is the new use, professional office, what's that burden? It could be as many as 80 trips a day, could be a little more than that, but it's not in the hundreds, it's literally half. And the reason is, think about your perfect example you said with the bank. Now, by the way, we don't have a bank here because you have to get a permit for a drive-through. But a bank, nobody goes there anymore, right? It's very infrequent unless you have an ATM or a drive-through. If you have a physical bank, it's very few people go. Office space, now people do real estate closings. They go out to do them. They don't even do them in their own offices anymore. Architects, half the time you do everything by Zoom now. I hate to say it, but the COVID effect had an effect of making professional office space very, very low intensity use. So that's why you see these numbers. And by the way, the ITE numbers don't even reflect that. These are existing numbers from years past. This doesn't even mark that. So even though we have more parking on this particular site, it's because it's static when it comes to professional office use. You come in, you stay. Maybe you leave for lunch. I don't know. You have a lot of places you could go in Hamilton. Maybe you stay and you have lunch there. That's why it's so low impact. And with regard to the apartments above, because they're one-bedroom units, that's why it generates so little traffic, because they're one-bedroom units. You expect maybe one person. Usually it won't go to two because they're very small units. But does that help a little bit explain why it seems like it's a lot of burden, because it's the site plan component?
Yeah, no, it definitely helps to clear that up a little bit.
Yeah.
As far as understanding that. So why there's, was it 6, 7 garages in there?
Sure.
And a storage building? I mean, it seems like it's...
So the storage building is just so they can get in and out, and that's why they have the overhead doors. The building, I call it Building 4 in the back. And then with regard to the building in front, Mr. Popolo sometimes has exotic cars, and he likes to park them in there. It's not for public storage purposes at all, and it's not for heavy equipment either. It's really, if he comes to the building and he has one of his cars, he wants to park it inside. It's no public use, and we would represent us to that as well, that all of the storage is accessory to the existing offices, and nothing is rented to the public, nothing. And I think some of it, too, was to break up some facade, because there are a lot of, directly across the street, it's beautiful property, by the way, directly across the street, I think it's... Is it 948, 968? It's a beautiful build. It has a beautiful older home. It probably was from the 1800s. And then they have four bay garages, like 2 with a residence on top, and then a big garage next to it. It's beautiful. So we were trying.
That one.
It's
came
lovely.
through us.
Yeah. So, I think when Mr. Stein was designing, he was trying to look around and see what was reflective of the neighborhood. So I think sometimes we put in garage doors also, because that kind of it's reflective of the neighborhood. And even next door, here's our property, and then you go north, and I think that's 965. Right? Yeah, odd numbers. I'm telling you, I try to remember odd and even on each side of the street. 965. It's a beautiful antique home. I think it's from the 1700s. It's got a big, long storage. You can even go to the last page in my supplement, and you'll see it's a long storage building. And again, kind of in keeping with that, but it's sort of that historic appeal where you have multiple structures on one lot that serve different purposes, I suppose, storage, being able to tinker out there, and that's what we were trying to reflect. And also, Mr. Popolo is not doing this as like a big money grab venture. He's just not. He's doing it to be able to have his offices here because he wants to get rid of that building because he thinks it's better. I think his son lives not even half a mile away. I don't even think he's that far away. He lives on Gardner Street. But it has to be economically viable. So we're putting the buildings there. Yes, we're retaining the residences, the one bedrooms, but that's actually a good thing in terms of, current market, right? And then demand, need, and it's kind of in keeping with the kind of attitude of what land use development should be. So I think all of that has come into play with why he's designed the buildings as he has.
I think one of the reasons Bruce brought it up is because for any use in Hamilton, if you want to do more than 4 or more garage spaces, it requires a special permit from the zoning board. You're kind of getting around that because of the finding process, but it's not something, even for single-family uses, that's permitted by right.
Right, I did know that for when it's single family, because they want to make sure you don't have a commercial use on the side. That's how it actually originally was generated, right? Here, it's clearly commercial, but we will put a restriction on. Do you want to go to the plans that show the different buildings? Yeah, no, there were the architectural, we have all the renderings. I think it was on, it's like pages 32, I think, in my submittal.
What was that back building being used for, the one that looked like it had the gate on it?
Sure. So that's the building that actually is those high-end tools. So there's just say it. There's a lot of theft of that kind of thing. So what they are these, Mr. Pupple and Brian probably can explain it better than I, but they have specialized tools. Like you have certain GIS mapping tools. You have these levels that are really detailed in their mechanical or electric. I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, it's smaller equipment that's used on sites.
Right. That's why I say, so it's small equipment, but it's very, I guess, new age equipment. It's very expensive equipment, and they want to be able to keep it in a secure location and not keep it, in a work trailer sometimes. But it's not like people will come in and out every day. They're going to come, they're going to take it, they're going to bring them to jobs. Some of the guys will keep them in the trucks. I think there's a lot of that going back and forth. But in general, they don't just want things lying when the site's not active. So I see. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 garage bays on the back one. And then
Those
on the
are
side,
private.
2, 4, 5. Yeah, 6 again. 4, 5.
And those will be accessed more by employees?
Only by employees.
Yeah.
Yeah, no public use. We were even toying with
It's
putting
just more
bollards on
people
it.
coming in going, grabbing tools each morning and...
No, it's not. Yeah, I know what you mean, and there's the potential for that, right? So, I understand why abutters can say, oh my gosh, you vision the parade of horribles, like what bad thing can happen? I mean, we're more than willing to represent that that's not going to happen every day. I don't know what the exact process would be for getting tools out of it, but it isn't a daily, oh, I need to grab this. It's, oh my God, we need this. Okay, get it for the job. Somebody goes, picks it up and goes. But it isn't intended to be, a general store for his workers.
I can just comment. We have.
Would you mind?
39 jobs
Would you mind?
Yeah,
throwing it
You have to
Come on
come
up
to the
and
mic and say your name.
State who you are and we'll...
Is this count as not talking? Hi, I'm Kevin Popolo. Pleasure to meet you guys. Most of the stuff that's going to go in that garage, I own a company called Construction Management Builders. We do commercial work. So in over the 20 states we work in, our headquarters happens to be in the Beverly Cherry Hill Industrial Park, and it's 30,000 feet of office space. We have 39 to 50 projects going at all time, and the things we're talking about right now we store in a trailer, which we've donated to the public twice in 3 years, and for hundreds of thousands of dollars of losses. So levels, any type of equipment, but we don't use them daily. If we assign it to a project, it could be at a project for 9 months to 2 years. But as they go in and out, they have to have a place to be born, stayed, caged, inventoried, and done. From my standpoint, the front office, I am separating myself in one stage from the business, and my office will be there for personal use as I try to do some fun stuff like this and think I can make an impact, which is pretty much what my goal is. Anything else?
Hey, you guys have any questions?
I'll share my 2 cents. So from what I hear, it's going to be the developer having an office there. There'll be another business able to rent. There's storage for the developers' other businesses that's going to be there. And then 3 single bedroom apartments to be rented. And I totally get what Miss Mann is saying about the business use, because I've gotten my car inspected and it's a madhouse getting in and out of the driveways there. Even the one in Hamilton, like right by the post, people park on the side, which I didn't realize you did, but you do. And that causes its own little traffic jam. So this all makes sense to me. I think Miss Mann, you did a great job of explaining it all. I guess my only question would be for Bruce and Stephen and Mark, if Mark can help us in this conversation, is everyone's concern that it feels so much bigger, or is there a concern that they are not meeting the requirements within the bylaws? Because it does feel bigger, but it feels like it's also within the bylaws for us to approve it and then go to the planning board and let the planning board decide any requirements. And as a side note, if we would, in this decision making, if we agree to move forward, if we would ask that the applicant come back to us so that the neighbors would be able to come in and say, let's talk about landscaping, let's talk about fences, because we do help mediate. It's not our favorite, but we do help mediate those conversations sometimes with abutters.
And I will tell you that the site plan approval process is a public hearing that we have to notify all the abutters. So they will come to that meeting. They will have input. And my guess is your planning board will actually say, you know what, we want more of this. We want more of that. We want dark sky fixtures. So we can come back here to just give you the plan and show you. But those abutters are going to have a loud voice at planning. They will. So I don't think you have to be concerned about that. I just wanted to make sure you knew that they would be given the opportunity and every bite of that apple.
Yeah, so my overall summary is, I think this sounds, if you two also agree, then I would be comfortable setting a motion.
Well, let's first hear from abutters. Speaking of abutters, let's.
Just want to chime in to say that one of the questions I have is closely related to that, which is whether or not the scope of what we're considering involves the scale, right? If it's going to site plan review, and we heard earlier about the difference of whether there's approval or conditions, right? So if it's just conditions, do those conditions involve scale? And therefore, if we're considering this and its impact on the community, whether it's substantially more or less detrimental to the neighborhood, are we consider scale in that, or are we just considering the use?
May I?
Yes, please.
Sure. So you don't really consider scale. You do consider total impact. So when we show you, you consider scale in the terms of what the impact is. So it's really, I'm going to answer it in 2 levels. So 1, do you really consider the scale? If I fully comply with the bylaw because this is conforming, you don't. However, the scale impacts the actual burden of the property. So when you say, does the scale affect it? So for example, if I generated more traffic than the other, then scale would matter. If this particular property were to burden other aspects, if it were to have like all parking out on front, we were to increase and get another driveway, it could change and be substantially more detrimental. If I was changing the use to something like still commercial, right, but some sort of a supermarket, that could be deemed to be substantially more detrimental, and that would involve scale, right? Because you'd have a hell of a lot more parking. You'd have a lot of parking spaces, and that would kind of be indicative of quick movement because it's retail. But here, The scale actually demonstrates why it is not substantially more detrimental, because it's a fixed scale. It's only office. And by the way, when you do this, the beauty of in the power of the zoning board is you don't just allow a change in use. You can actually say, we're allowing a change in use, and the use is only office, that accessory storage, only in those buildings as shown, and only 3 one-bedroom apartments. You have the ability to actually restrict to those less intense uses to be able to ensure that the scale doesn't negatively impact the site. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think it does a little bit. It gives me your perspective on it for sure. I think what I was getting at is whether or not things like I do think this is a lovely project. I think it looks good. I think visually it's certainly an improvement over the existing conditions of the site, right? But if we're to consider neighbors' concerns and the sort of the massing of the buildings, it is more massive structure on the property than currently exists. It being upgraded is nice, but that will come with a host of other concerns. Even if there's lower impact during the day, there could be greater impact at night from lighting. Again, those aren't specifically under our consideration. Those would be things that the planning board would consider in site plan review. But I do think that it does speak to whether or not we would be considering the scale of impact of the structures themselves as part of the evaluation of whether or not this is more or less detrimental than the existing use.
Absolutely, and that's why, there's that comparison of what exists now in the neighborhood. What are the requirements? For example, the scale. You have the 2 buildings, right in front. 3 buildings, I apologize. But you also have frontage of 371 feet where only 175 is needed. So you actually have 2 full, the equivalent of almost 2 full lots because you have so much frontage. But you do look at the massing in terms of that, because I don't want to say that you don't. It's just a different perspective, right? And it's my perspective relative to how I present, and it's your perspective as how you interpret what's substantially more detrimental. But you have to attach the massing to an effect. So if you say, okay, the massing is negative because, and I don't know, and you may have something to connect to that. I just don't know what it would be because of the truly restricted uses.
And just, Andy, to get back to your question kind of about how it works with the different boards, the question in front of the zoning board tonight is you can permit this if you determine that the change shall not be substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming use to the neighborhood. So that's really the question in front of the zoning board. That's a sort of discretionary decision. So you can use your own judgment to listen to the abutters and the applicant and take their feedback and make that decision. You can say yes, or you can say no, or you can say something in the middle. You can say you think it's a little too big, you want them to reduce the scale of it. And then if you approve it, it goes to planning board. Planning board, it's non-discretionary, so they can't deny the project. They can't. They really can't even force them to scale down the project. They're going to focus on the details that you talked about, the things like landscaping and lighting, and some of those finer grain details. But that's sort of how I see the process going.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay. Why don't we hear from some neighbors if there's someone that would like to speak? I know you've been raising your hand. Come on. Someone come up and state your name and your case.
Yes. Good evening. My name is Jim McCarthy, 956 Bay Road, and right directly across from the property at 957. Though we're relatively new to Hamilton, we've lived around the corner on Fellows Road for 30 years, and I'm very familiar with the property, having run by it or driven by it many times. At first hearing that there was a plan to be developed by a very reputable company, we were excited, but I speak for myself, my wife, and others in the condo association. We were taken aback by the change in use and the intensity. And I think what we were trying to get our head around, and we've been alluding to this language a little bit, It's the baseline that matters, right? And that Section 5.2 approve a change to non-conforming use only if it finds the proposed use is not substantially more detrimental than the existing use, and that finding requires a comparison between the actual historical use and what is now being proposed. And I'd argue that we really haven't seen any historical data on traffic other than statistical analysis of a auto repair, typical auto repair place, which we know this place wasn't. A typical auto repair place isn't by appointment only, and it just was not a typical auto repair place. So we're going on a statistical analysis that I do not believe is valid. There's no occupancy records. There's no evidence of the volume of business they did. Anything that would help us get a baseline of what was the volume of activity in that location. We have nothing of that sort. And we also don't have anything that talks about the additional traffic and volume that will be going through that property. We do know they're replacing one building with 4 commercial buildings. We know there are 26 parking spots. There are 26 there today, 6 office suites, 3 apartments, 11 storage units. Just common sense tells you that's a dramatically increased intensity of use of that property. I would also say that there's been a lot of talk about appearance, and you can't deny that that's not the most attractive property in town. And again, one of the reasons we were excited about the potential for some development there. But I don't believe that not substantially more detrimental means that you can just dress it up and have whatever it is you're proposing accepted. That we have to focus on what the bylaw requires, which again, unless I'm mistaken, is that it is a comparison between the actual historical use of what has been there versus what they are now proposing, and I haven't seen that. I've heard about the appearance, and hard to deny, but I think we're underplaying the dramatically different volume of activity on that site versus what historically has been on that site, not on some typical or average repair shop, but on what has happened on that site, which again, I think anyone who's lived in the area and driven by there knows it was not a typical Jiffy Lube. So thank you for that consideration. I think, again, we're not opposed to the development. It's just the scale, the dramatic change in use, and the intensity.
Yeah, the one thing I've been kind of wanting to say is that, yeah, we know what this place has been for the last 25 years, which isn't much, but a junkyard.
Right.
But we kind of also have to look at it as what it could be, kind of by right, as a non-conforming use. The guy could sell it to somebody else, and they can build a big, Super Lube, Jiffy Lube, whatever in there, because it is the same use. It would have to go through the ZBA, but we'd probably allow it because it is the same use.
Right.
We can't really say, no, you got to stay within that little thing there.
Right.
So
yeah,
you have to kind of look at it at that angle. It's
know.
like what it could be if it isn't this, what
right.
the other case could be.
But I guess I just question again in the interpretation of the bylaw, looking at what the worst case scenario should be or could be. Is that something that should be looked at when you look at the bylaw and weigh the intensity?
Well, I think
of
it
use?
is. I mean, we weigh that as is this. Would you prefer this type of development versus a big industrial building that could fit in there?
Right.
And not,
I know. I hear. I know what you're saying.
Everybody wants to keep it kind of as it is, and
no, that
just very quiet little building.
Right.
But that's not.
No, I think we expected some increase, and again, I recognize that there could be worst case scenarios, but there could be better scenarios. Who knows down the road, right? That's why I think the hypotheticals can be dangerous when we're evaluating a bylaw, and when the bylaw asks for a consideration of past intensity versus current, and not even having. I mean, I don't know how the zoning board can make a decision tonight without any data on the historical volume of business in that property or actual traffic data. Again, I'd argue that statistical traffic data is extremely flawed. And again, anyone driving by that building and that property over the last 20 years knows that's not a typical Jiffy Lube.
Right.
Right. But thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you. Next, let's have one more. Keep come with this. Then you can come back up.
I have my turn too. I'm a native.
You're gonna be next.
Thank you.
Are you a butter?
I'm in a butter as well.
Go right ahead.
Hi, my name's Roy Gibbs, and I live at 18 Gardner Street. I'm a clear butter of the property, and my backyard has sat against what's effectively been described as the junkyard for years now. So first, I just want to say thank you for the cleanup that's occurred. I don't think anybody's landscaped or had a leaf blower on that property in 20 plus years, so it's nice to see that it's already starting to get cleaned up relative to what it was. And then the second thing that I've been trying to grapple with as I've formed an opinion around where I stand on all this is the prospect of a Meineke or a Midas being in our backyard is not something that I think sits well within the town. And when I look at this is a beautiful rendering of something that really accommodates the historical elements of Hamilton and supports the community in a way that is not something that I would underwrite as an investment and is clearly fairly charitable to this town. And I think that should, that's obviously overlooked as we're talking about, 5.2, 5.3, all of that. There's a charitable element to all of this that I think should be looked at, which is, a huge investment in something that doesn't have a great ROI and is going to vastly improve our town. So, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Sir, come on up. We wouldn't leave you sitting back there in the corner.
Peter Townsend, I live at 38 Gardner Street, and I'm on the backside of this property. And I do appreciate a lot of what one of the prior gentlemen said, who lives across the street, an examination of the exact use. I don't really understand the grandfathering of this permit in the first place, but I'm not a lawyer. Are you the town attorney?
I'm not an attorney, no, just the planning director. But
so we don't have the town attorney even weighing in on all these legal matters that we're talking about in the
town council?
It's not legal.
Town council? Are they aware of any of this?
Yes, they do provide
What kind of FARs apply in this situation? What do you even consider an appropriate use of a non-conforming lot in a residential zoning area? With an application,
it's in our bylaws. The bylaws write it out for us.
I understand. I'm asking a question. I'm sorry for being.
And the town's attorney does review the application and make sure that they're applying for their correct zoning relief. So we have confirmed that.
Okay, but there's nothing on that speaks to in our zoning on FARs, Florida area ratios.
I don't believe this zoning district has an FAR requirement.
So they're just aiming high and expecting to get
There's
something.
a lot coverage and.
How is it that you're able to comment on that without anything like he's brought up, or the pervious pavement that's going to be replacing grass, the roof area that's replacing grass, the fact that the property slopes to my property, that the prior owner of that property built a berm so that he didn't have a swamp in the back, thereby bringing in the Conservation Commission as an issue when he was looking to sell it. I happen to speak to the gentleman, of course.
May I? One thing is they're going to have to go through all the storm management, stormwater management.
You're going to approve a 4-building
and do all that before
for 26
cars
here and now?
Yeah. But the other thing is,
seriously,
they can cover 25% of the lot by right.
Okay.
They're only covering 19% of the lot by right.
When you say that's a grandfathered right, do they not still
No,
have to go through the entire
bylaw.
process before they get permission to build? And do we not apply the different standards?
If this was an open lot and trees and grasses and all that stuff, and somebody bought it, they could build up to 25. They could build a ranch, one-story building that's
when you say an open
takes
lot,
up
as a residential
as in
building.
nothing built on it, so it's a clear lot. They can come in and build a house that covers 25% of that lot and still do that by right.
Okay.
If they're doing 27%, then they would have to come to the zoning board for approval of that.
And that's in the
Because
1B.
it's overextending the limits of our
Well,
building
I
envelopes.
didn't do my homework, I apologize.
So,
for that.
yeah, so this is all by the lot size, coverage-wise, it's fine. The sticky part is that it's a commercial use in a residential zone. And it's an R1B zone, so it's a larger lot that one house should be able to sit on. And now you can put an auxiliary unit if you want, an ADU, and a garage.
But the 1B zoning is 1 acre?
40,000 square feet per lot.
So this is sort of.
And this is 60?
0.5.
Yeah, so this is 60. So if it's a 1A, it would be 20,000 square feet. So you could
But
do.
that would be a residential
you could do 3
structure
lots
that
in
can
here.
add up to that, not necessarily commercial, right? Or I don't quite follow.
Yeah, like I said, if this was a residential property, they wouldn't be allowed to do this out of something called a variance, which is hard to get. But
Would
because
that be multi-unit, though? This is multi-unit.
you could apply for a variance for anything. But because this is a non-conforming use and it was
Historic.
yeah, it was in place before the zoning for the town was put in
I
place.
understand that part, and they tore the gas tank out.
So they're allowed to
And then
keep-
this guy
so they're allowed to
operated
keep
a
going
mail-order
in that
parts
type of use.
business. The amount of traffic we saw, I happen to know the guy was employed. So it was a part-time hobby, if anything. The cars, I believe you probably took them away, that were left there. It was, a ramshackle place. The guy was an interesting character, and he did it the way he lived. But to suggest that it's going to become a Jiffy Lube, I mean, that's a nightmare that you're presenting that obviously isn't really a concern of mine. That's not going to happen out there. That's not where you put Jiffy Lubes. You put them on, near Liberty Tree Mall or something, where there is traffic that can lead to 1 person an hour in each of your 8 bays or whatever you said. And the traffic, I question whether it's even been an operating business that gets grandfathered. I don't know, is there any record or examination of what this guy really did? To say that he was a commercial business is like, I can say I'm a commercial business.
I know he had,
I know he did too, but what was it? How many people did you see come and go?
All I know is he repaired a lot of different machinery. He was a beautiful mind. He had 78 chainsaws. He did a lot of different weird
All right,
stuff with machinery.
fair enough. He was a tinkerer.
But he did have a commercial business. It was incorporated, and I paid him.
All right.
To fix my mower. He did.
I'll grant.
What's that?
Anyways, I think the impact is, like previously stated, just way more than is appropriate for the neighborhood. It's adding, a fair amount of paving, and
I'm just going a little closer to the.
anyway,
Okay.
I've taken too much
All
time.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do like the design.
Okay.
I think it should be half.
Hello, I'm Chris Tripp. I'm at 965 Bay Road, the property to the north. It's also the property that has the big green barn that you were referring to. I didn't prepare much for tonight. I got a 8-week at home, so I'm running on about 3 hours of sleep. But I'm going strictly off of what I've heard about Kevin and the reputation of Kevin and Kevin's company. And I am in support of this. I mean, you can see the extreme detail that's been put into these drawings, all down to pushing everything in the back to keep it, visually appearing. You don't see that from a lot of developers. That says something about what Roy said, the charitable aspect and the community aspect. And then one other thing that I'll say is the property now, people driving on this road, on Bay Road, they know it's vacant, and it's kind of a desolate stretch down Bay Road, and people fly. I mean, crazy. We don't have a formal driveway or parking lot. So we kind of pull over on the side of the dirt road. That's where we keep our cars. And it's, you know, we go out there and you can feel the wind as cars cruise by. So I actually think that having a development that has, you know, a nice appearance, people, I know the house across the road from us, 968 Bay Road, was mentioned a couple times, how, you know, done a beautiful job with it. It's a couple different structures within the property. People drive by. I see people, you know, coming from Ipswich, they drive by, they slow down to look at it just because it's a beautiful spot. I think if we have something like that on, you know, on this side of the road as well, that can only help, you know. I would love for people to slow down on that road. I have, you know, a 2-year-old and, like I said, an 8-week-old at home. And it's just, you know, anything we can do to try to get some, the traffic's one thing, but the way people drive on that road is another thing. So interested to see, you know, see this through to the next steps. And like I said, I'm going off the reputation. My wife grew up with Kevin's children in Hamilton, and I know the family and the company has a great reputation. So just wanted to give my approval. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Last one.
Sure.
Warren Gray, 935 Bay Road. I'm one of the members beside Roy here. Most people know me as Bob. My middle name is Robert. I've lived at 935 Bay Road for 56 years. And in all those 56 years, this property has been just a wreck. Junk cars, junk mowers, junk everything, all scattered out through the areas. So when the new owner came and started cleaning things up, and then I got a notice that they were going to do a project there, I was quite excited. Till I went down to the building department and looked at the plan, and I said, wow, this kind of looks like it's way too big for the size of the property there. I mean, they made a nice presentation here, but still looks like it's almost too big for that property and for the general neighborhood. So that was really my only concern is the size of the project. Second concern was about the contamination there. I know I guess some reports been done, but you know, years and years of junk cars, and by the way, I know for a fact that when it was a very active repair garage, they used to take the used oil and store it in 55-gallon drums out in the back on pallets, and because they used it for the furnace. They had a oil-burning furnace there, and that's what they used it for. But some of those 55-gallon drums were known to leak. And so that's why I'm really concerned about contamination. And I think in your packet, if I read it correctly, from the the health department, mentioning about how the septic system is not big enough to accommodate this project, and that at the same time when they do that, they were going to be doing some checking on contamination. I think he said in his letter in your packet. Am I right?
Has there been a test of the properties? I thought that was done, for contamination.
We have reports that show that it was cleaned up. There's not been any activity that demonstrates. The drums that Mr. Gray is talking about, that's that spill.
Okay.
That was the one that was cleaned up.
Okay.
So
I thought that was just so you know, I think they've been in there already to try to get it cleaned up. And as far as I know, the septic system probably hasn't been designed yet.
Yeah, okay.
And that's a big question for me, is where's that going to go with all the pavement? And you can put it under pavement too, but I'm sure they'll have to design that to accommodate all the...
Did I hear you say that the planning board cannot change the scale of this project?
I would say that question isn't really the zoning board's purview, is the scale of the project, the use. The planning board looks at the site plan itself, so they can't deny a project. They can place conditions on it. They can ask for changes, things like that.
I'm just asking that question. I think the project is too big. I'm wondering who could maybe say, okay, this project is a nice project. It cleans up the property and everything, but could we make it a little bit smaller maybe? Who can do that?
That would be the zoning board. If
that would be here.
If they wanted to, they could request
they wanted
that.
To.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I'm requesting it. As far as this is just a side thing. As far as the traffic goes, I have to disagree with some of the people that spoke here about that. Don't you remember the old days they called it the S-curves? There's one big S-curve by your property and a big S-curve up on the other. And people come around there, and I've lived there 56 years. It could be a problem with people trying to get into there because of these S-curves and stuff that cause traffic and speeders. So
it's related to the speed.
Yeah.
That's why the speed limit's only
just
25 or 30 in that zone.
But anyway, that's where I stand, and taking into consideration, you have a letter in your packet from me.
How do you feel about the project since you've seen the...
I'm actually quite impressed. I feel actually better about it with your presentation than I did before I came here.
Okay.
So yeah, it's really worthy. Yeah, it's certainly. But I don't like being blackmailed, saying maybe there'd be a Jiffy Lube there.
No. It's just, but it's something you have to kind of.
Well, but as Peter said, it could also be something better, just a big single-family house, right?
Yep, could be that too.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you bring up the aerial view?
Yep.
It's the last page.
Is there anybody else in Zoom that wants to speak up to the project? No. And we're all through, everybody here? Okay.
If you do want to speak on Zoom, you can just raise your hand or unmute yourself.
We have our board showing, so. I don't see anybody.
Okay.
I don't hear anybody. So yeah, if we can look at that over. Because I'm just looking at it as scale, size, space of the neighborhood and what's being proposed.
I picture that with 14 cars in there.
What house is what's above to the north?
To the north, that's...
Is that a private home? Who's that? 965. That's you? Yeah. Okay. I don't know the street numbers as well as you guys do, obviously.
It's a lovely home. It's right in a triangle. It's an antique home. It has to be from the 1700s. Yeah.
They don't even know the date.
Yeah.
So that's, and then the garage, the garage that exists along the frontage it's got to be almost the same vintage. It's old.
Same. Yeah, I think it was a couple of years after that.
So if I may, I can outline it. So that 935, basically almost all of the properties that surround this one happen to be non-conforming. They're 22 to 30,000 square feet. They're not 40,000. It's just that's the nature of this area. They're older. It's an older community. Directly across the street, like I said, that those homes, you can see it, where you have that big building to the north directly across the street from your house, and then you have the two structures that come down the side. That's all one property. And then you have a whole bunch of little accessory buildings. That property is maybe 1.7 acres, I think that is. Maybe might be bigger. I think it's 1.7 because you can compare it to across the street. And then the building right below it, the larger building that's vertical, that's on about 20,000 square feet. Is that your property? I think that's your condo, the next one.
I'm not following exactly.
So I can't, I can't really, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to point so that people can see it, and then you can maybe point it out to the, this one.
That one, that's a condo building.
That's the 3-unit condo, and this is a 3-unit condo.
Oh, they both are?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know that.
One of them has like 30,000 square feet. The other one has about 20, but they're all pretty old. I mean, it's a legally existing non-conforming lot. And then below again, that there's a two-family that was subject to the conversion. under your bylaw, you allow like a single family to be converted if it's a certain vintage. So you have that on that property, and I think maybe Mr. Gray, I think is yours too the conversion into a two-family. Yeah, but you did that under the bylaw, completely legally done under the bylaw. You can convert, but it's a non-conforming lot.
Yeah.
Then the next property that's yours is actually a conforming lot. That was the 18 Gardner.
So what's to the northeast?
Okay, I don't even know. That's this.
So the diagonal line going up there, it's almost like the road that starts at the bottom right corner going straight across the backyard of the design.
So
at a 45.
So
is it here?
North, so east.
Yeah, so that line.
Back here. This is a big, beautiful estate lot. That's my lot. I actually detailed that. That's the one that has like a pool, a tennis court, a secondary garage, a huge primary home, and then multiple little buildings everywhere.
Well, half of it's in conservation restriction.
Yes, it is.
And you abut that.
Yes.
So I'm not.
I don't know what I'm just telling you, he asked a question.
Yeah.
So,
is that a more deer-friendly property than what's there now? I'm not so sure.
I don't know what that means. But you are, so it's that's like, I think it's 11 acres behind it.
Okay.
And some of it may be in a CR. I didn't look at that component. I didn't look at it, so it might be.
Just like the property.
I'm just curious what.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you look at your roof area, just optically is larger than near every building in this view.
It actually, some of them they're like all different shapes, but the total component and then the total burden on the property is relative to percentage. Some of them are quite close because we're 19%, and there are some homes that are have a.
Oh yeah,
and it's fine. I mean, it looks nice. People are very considerate the way they drive. The driveways are well kept. All we're trying to do is the same. I mean, the reason why we say it's harmonious is, I had Mr. Stein overlay it because I thought it was important for the community to actually see what it looked like. It's good to be able to visualize. But also what you're visualizing is you're looking at at the pavement. And is it pavement? Yes. But does it get handled with stormwater? Yes. The actual buildings are what you look at for occupation, and I'd venture to say that many of those particular buildings are close to the 15 to 19% coverage. Mm-hmm. But again, we do meet the zoning requirements, and I apologize if you thought that we were threatening with regard to Jiffy Lube. We surely are not. If anybody who knows Mr. Popolo knows, he absolutely would not threaten, doesn't use that, has absolutely no desire to ever touch this as motor vehicle repair. I brought it up. I, as the attorney, it was never brought up by anybody else. I brought it up because, everybody thinks it has to be, the bylaw says, or the statute says you have to look at the actual use of the property. Absolutely not. The statute says if somebody underutilized the property in the use, that's underutilization. You benefited for a couple of years, but the property can be used to the full extent of whatever that use is. So if it's underutilized, it was underutilized, but it doesn't mean that's not the metric you use. You actually said it. I don't need to repeat it. So anyway, I digress. Any other questions?
Can I ask a clarifying question, please? Is that
Yeah,
You have to come to the
come
mic.
up so we can hear you.
So I'm just,
Get it
I'm
recorded.
just curious, Jim McCarthy, again, you know more about this than I do, right? But so you can compare a hypothetical to what you're proposing versus the actuals versus what you're proposing? You're saying comparing it to a Jiffy Lube, this looks really good. I'm confused.
Maybe I said that, but
But you can't compare it to a hypothetical, can you? Can't you? You have to. I thought the bylaw stated that it requires a comparison between the actual historical use and what is now being proposed.
use. Yeah.
Yes. So what is
Not company or.
No. I know, but again, again, we know what Jiffy Lube implies,
extreme.
but this is not. This was again a part-time tinkerer who didn't even have regular hours. You had to go to the website and make an appointment. So we again, it's just. I think we're comparing a hypothetical to what is not real right now, and that's all I'm asking is that the board consider that.
Garage in Essex and see how many people they get through their 2 garage bays.
Sir, when you make comments, I would just warn you, the majority of the people that are making this decision can't hear you because they're online, so you do have to go to the mic.
Understood. I'm sorry.
So again, the area of non-conforming uses is absolutely not intended for lay people, and that's no disrespect intended. It is an extremely litigated point. And with regard to use, it is the actual use, not historic. You actually look at the use. What is it? And it is not historic practical. It is use. What is the use? And when you look at the case law and when you look at the actual verbiage in the bylaw, it says what is the existing use. You have to compare the proposed change to the existing use. And when you look at the existing use, you have to look at what it is. That's why I provided all those NAICS data, because you have to look at the categories. The fact that a property is underutilized does not undermine, nor does it change the grandfathering of the use. So if you allowed it as if you allowed it to be a motor vehicle repair facility and the man kept it up, even if he did it in a minor sense, it's irrelevant. It's still a protected use under the statute.
If I could, I just respectfully ask the board to confirm that. I don't doubt. I mean,
Well,
but
Yes, but it's, yes, I mean, it's
yeah. Again, I'm sorry,
it's about the
McCarthy.
use.
I would just ask because again, that's a key part of this interpretation. Is it actual historical use or is it again hypothetical? What could have been in that case use, right?
But it's not, you have to separate the definition of use versus the description of how it's used.
Right, but
if he wanted to build his business, he might come to us and say, I need to knock this building down because it's too old and I can't do what I want to do. I want to make a bigger thing in there and start going to town and be, whatever he wants to be in some kind of mechanical way. He can build whatever he wants, and I mean, within the bylaws,
right,
as a brand new building. And be a bigger operation if he wanted to.
Okay.
Just because he's a little guy doesn't mean he has to stay there. And
I know.
The next person who comes in doesn't have to be the little guy who stays there.
But
they can come in and do a big thing. So okay. So use is a.
But that's where I wonder
terminology for the type of land use.
I'm sorry for. Have you had a similar case to this that you've looked at that bylaw in that fashion? And again, I'm just worried about. Is this a consistent ZBA zoning?
It's kind of like what the bank was down the street. That used to be a little flower shop.
Right.
I think before that it was a gas station. I think an old gas station.
Right.
It's a state statute, so it's fairly well litigated what their criteria are, and I think the reason why the applicant is bringing it up is because. Conceivably, they could come in with a use that's similar to what was historically there, so like a small service station or a garage, something like that.
Right.
And the building commissioner have to go to ZBA. It would just be an extension of that non-conforming use. If it's expansion, then that's when it goes to the ZBA.
Right.
That's why we're here tonight.
Right. And a different use, right? The intensity of use of the land versus what's there right now.
Yes.
Right. Okay. I was under the impression it was based on historical use of the site, not necessarily what could be there, because that sounds like a very difficult target to hit. It's a moving target, right? It could be a Jiffy Lube, it could be a super Jiffy Lube, who knows, right? And that just puzzles me that would be the standard for the bylaw, evaluation of intensity. But thank you.
I would just like to add a question about this traffic study and, the notion of how many cars are traveling on Route 1A Bay Road past that spot versus, say, Route 133 in Essex and Gaybrook Garage, or the station we have downtown. There are, that notion that you can, and also, so, to suggest if the existing permitted use were to continue as a two-bay repair shop, there are no gas tanks. That would, I think, require another change of use, wouldn't it? To say that there was one there in 1950 to 1960, I mean, that's been a long time. For a machine repair shop, that's a light industrial use. How large is that facility now? To say a Jiffy Lube is going to come along and triple its size, would that not also kick in a zoning board review with an environmental impact, a traffic study? No?
It would be the building commissioner to make a decision. If he thought it was consistent with the historical use, then he...
All right, but would the building commissioner consider something consistent with this historical use when it's doubled or tripled in size? That, to me, is inconsistent. It would kick in, presumably, a whole host of other things, impact studies, et cetera. Again, I just don't understand. We all appreciate the notion of it being improved. It's a no-brainer that place was going to get improved when that person sold. He had to sign up for 40B buyers. Neither here nor there, we're talking about this project. I feel it's too much for the area. Just optically looking at this map, you can see it dominates everything else in this picture, not just the lack of vegetation, but the footprint of the buildings. The other places are old historic buildings. They were there. We passed zoning laws in the town to preserve the open spaces and not re-densify things or allow the densification to continue except in the areas where we want them. Now, along Bay Road, I consider that myself. That's fine. But you've got 4 houses in a spot that maybe 2 would be more appropriate. That's my personal feeling, and I object. Thank you.
Okay. You guys have anything further to discuss about this? I mean, how do you feel? I feel like I need a little time to absorb all this and really, now that I've heard the presentation, try to get my mind around the traffic issues and the scale of it. Personally, I wouldn't mind continuing it to next month so I can kind of look into that a little bit more thoroughly now that we've heard everything. What do you guys think?
I don't disagree with that, Bruce.
Andy?
That's good.
Yeah, okay.
Okay with that, yeah.
We are more than willing to accept a continuance. And I just want to add, maybe what actually helps a little bit is the reason why non-conforming uses are protected and you're allowed to grow is because the entire point of the statute is to preserve those uses that were historically begun and to allow them to actually succeed. So the reason you're allowed to put up a bigger building and the reason you're allowed to actually increase your customer base is because the statute is intended to foster those non-conforming uses to actually succeed and not to die. And that's kind of why you protect an existing use. For example, I couldn't put a manufacturing shop there. You know, it's still an industrial use, but I'm changing the use. I couldn't do that. But they just foster success, just so people understand where the law comes from in that point. But I just want to get back to the point of, yes, we would accept a continuance, and I would actually ask that we continue then till next month.
Okay. If you guys are on board with that, I'm good with that for sure. Do I hear a motion to continue this to next month?
I sent a motion to continue the application for variance of 957 Bay Road.
A finding.
Finding, for a finding, yeah.
Or for a finding, sorry.
Actually, wait, one minute, I'm sorry. Wouldn't this fall under a special permit because of the voluntary demolition?
It does not.
No, that's not what the building inspector determined. And we did take it to town council, and they agreed with his.
Okay. All right. Never mind. Okay. Motion to continue?
Andy Phillip, aye.
Stephen DeRocher, aye.
All right, Bruce Gingrich, aye.
May I ask the date?
Next, it's every Wednesday, first Wednesday of the month. So that would be, we'll continue to
January 7.
Yes, January 7th.
Okay, perfect.
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock, same place. Thank you very much.
Same place, same time.
Same bad channel. Thank you.
Per month. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You too.
Have a good holiday. We won't see you.
All right, you too. Okay, the other things we have are the meeting minutes. Excuse me, we're not done yet. We want to get out of here too, so if we could step outside and talk. Hey guys, could we just move out into the foyer or something and chat? Oh, yeah. Thank you. We just got to wrap up our meeting here and get home too.
Yeah, good work, you too. Yeah. We got this one. Okay, great. Sorry.
Okay, so we have meeting minutes for November 5th, 2025. Any issues you guys see with that?
None.
No?
I was just looking them over again, and I noticed that for the hearing where I took over as chair, it says that David took over as chair, which I don't particularly care about, but I'm not sure David wants my words in his mouth.
No, we'll get that changed, yeah, because it's definitely you doing that. I'll have to check. Maybe I put the wrong name in on that one. Yeah, okay. So, entertain a vote to approve meeting minutes of November 5th, 2025.
I motion to approve the meeting minutes of November 5th, 2025 with the change discussed earlier of David's name being corrected to my name for the 45 Central Place project.
Yep.
I second that.
Okay, roll call vote.
Stephen DeRocher, aye.
Andy Phillip, aye.
Bruce Gingrich, aye. And that will wrap it for tonight. We'll see you next month.
I think we have the...
We'll see you next week.
What's that?
See you next week.
Yeah, next week, too.
We don't have a time yet, do we? I don't think we have a time yet.
What? Hang on a second.
There's the schedule for next year.
Oh, yeah, right. Did you guys see the schedule for next year?
Did see the schedule, but we just continued that last item to a meeting that doesn't exist on the schedule.
I think it's missing the...
Well, it will now.
We'll fix that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's because nothing was submitted in time for that meeting.
Yep.
So,
good point.
We don't have any conflict with vacations or anything like that?
Vacations.
Yeah, when you go away from home for a long time.
What are those?
More than 3 days.
That should be good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But I thought there was some really good potential candidates in this session to become alternates for the ZBA.
All right, well, get their names and we'll send them a letter.
Yeah, some were really good. Okay, so we don't have a time next week for lunch, though, do we?
Whenever, 12:30.
Okay. Great.
Go to the Post.
Sounds great.
Okay. We'll see you then.
Wait, sorry, I think this said, oh, never mind, sorry. Okay, thanks, guys. Bye.
Wait, do we need to adjourn?
Oh,
motion to adjourn.
Yeah, motion to adjourn.
I second that motion.
All right. All in favor?
Stephen DeRocher, aye.
Andy Phillip, aye.
Bruce Gingrich, aye. Good
Bye, guys.
evening.
Awesome.
See ya.
All right, thank you. Bye, everybody.